Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by thebigfouraccountingfirms.com. Check out our blog and subscribe to our podcast for career advice, recruiting secrets, and the latest Big Four news. Hope you enjoy the show.
In today's podcast, we're going to be discussing the Facebook Cambridge Analytica privacy scandal and its impact on the Big Four. In that scandal, Cambridge Analytica was utilizing private information of Facebook users to try and influence the US presidential election. And this should have been caught by Facebook because they were supposed to have strong privacy controls following a settlement with the FTC in 2011. Now, Facebook settled with the FTC in 2011 over misrepresenting their privacy program. Facebook told users that they could keep their information on the social network private, but that information was then used by third parties. And as part of that settlement, Facebook was barred from making misrepresentations about privacy or security of consumers' personal information. They were also required to obtain consumers' affirmative express consent before enacting changes that override privacy preferences. They were required to prevent anyone from accessing a user's material more than 30 days after the user has deleted his or her account. And they were also required to establish and maintain a comprehensive privacy program designed to address privacy risks associated with development and management of new and existing products and services. And lastly, they were required within 180 days of the settlement and every 2 years afterwards for the next 20 years to obtain independent third-party audits certifying that its privacy program was in place to meet or exceed the requirements of the FTC order. Now, from all the news that came out of this Cambridge Analytica scandal, it's obvious that Facebook did not comply with these requirements when their users' information was accessed and utilized by Cambridge Analytica inappropriately. But one of those requirements, as we said, was to get audited, to get their privacy program audited. And the last one of the audits of the Facebook privacy program required by the FTC was performed by PwC. And that's how the Big Four come into play. PwC performed an independent report on Facebook's privacy program, and that report was dated from February 12th, 2015 to February 11th, 2017. And during this time period covered by the PwC report, it is thought that Cambridge Analytica was likely using Facebook users' information. So it appears that PwC missed this huge mistake during their audit. So PwC gave a thumbs up on Facebook's privacy program when they shouldn't have. And there are a number of questions that this brings up now for PwC and the other Big Four. The first one being, are these third-party audits truly independent? And in this report, PwC had a bunch of caveats about the scope of the report, about how they didn't attest whether it met privacy laws or whether it's in that Facebook complied with various laws and legal matters. But no matter how many caveats PwC brings up in their report, they were expected to detect the very lapses that happened in this Cambridge Analytica scandal. This was a huge lapse in Facebook's privacy program, so even if PwC was sample testing like they do in a normal audit, they should have caught it. And what people think is that one of the reasons that PwC might not have caught the lapse in the privacy program is because that PwC doesn't want to rock the boat. They don't want to tell a huge client like Facebook that they might be doing something wrong. And the reason they don't want to do this is because they face losing millions of dollars. And there's also a question of whether an auditor can actually independently go into an audit with the client and be independent when they're earning millions of dollars and still look at everything from an independent lens. So that's the first question. And the next question is, should the government rely on the Big Four accounting firms for independent audits? And, in this case, it was the FTC. And so people are looking at the FTC as failing the public because why didn't the FTC perform the audit of Facebook's privacy program? Why did they farm it out to a third party? And the public feel like they're failed by the FTC because it's the FTC's job to enforce their penalties and their requirements. And instead, they farmed it out to PwC. But PwC did not do sufficient work to catch the error. So this begs the question, is this also true of the Securities and Exchange Commission for trusting the Big Four to catch errors in financial statements? So the question is, can these government institutions continue to trust the Big Four accounting firms to safeguard the public? In financial statements, it's to safeguard shareholder value. With these privacy programs, it's to ensure that the public's private information remains private. The last question, which is sort of a big picture question, is can the Big Four catch material errors at all, whether it's financial statement or in privacy programs? With all the recent accounting scandals, and now this privacy scandal involving PwC, It appears that Big Four are caught up in a series of huge mistakes that are material and that should have been caught by them. And the magnitude of these scandals are huge, to the point to where your average citizen can come in and try and do the same job, and they would likely catch some of these errors. And in all these scenarios, the Big Four are being paid millions of dollars for their expertise. But even with all their so-called expertise, they are still missing extremely material mistakes. And this leaves a question as to whether the Big Four have the technical expertise to be auditing large, complex companies. And I definitely have a huge issue with the Big Four accounting firms claiming that they can audit a privacy program. They are not a technology company, so how can they possibly have the expertise to audit a unique privacy program of the largest social network on the planet? It should be done by potentially a competitor or a similar company like Twitter or something similar to Twitter that's not a direct competitor. But to say that a Big Four accounting firm knows how to audit a privacy program, I remain skeptical of that. Should the Big Four be engaged to audit a privacy program? I don't know. I mean, what do the Big Four or PwC know about privacy programs and standards for privacy programs? Facebook probably chose an accounting firm like PwC because PwC has experience with auditing and sampling, and that's what the FTC required. But PwC approached this audit like they would approach any audit. They took samples and extrapolated that against the whole population. But does PwC know how to properly design and then implement an audit of a privacy program or an audit of a similar technological area? Because this is now going to raise questions about their ability to audit things like blockchains and cybersecurity breaches, which they are no doubt out there bidding on today, because these are the next things that they're going to need to audit in the technology space. So if they can't catch material errors in large financial statements where they are experts, but also privacy programs, which they've been doing for the past couple of years for Facebook, what can they catch? I mean, that's a question that I'll leave up to you guys and to the public at large. And we're going to have to see whether they can step up in these other areas and continue to hold the public trust, or will the public and the government lose trust in them and break them up?
If you need help and guidance through your Big Four recruiting process, make sure to check out our links to our books and courses in the show notes below. For additional Big Four career insights, tips, and tactics, visit our Patreon page, whereas for as little as $1, you could start receiving unique guides and checklists to help you throughout your career. Support us by not only donating to our Patreon page, but also by subscribing to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player today.